Um, I don't know that this is live. Could uh, could somebody check? Could somebody check if I'm live on Facebook, because I've never been live on Facebook. Um, I think I'm in my office. I would be happy to address some of the concerns arising out of the weight of the anxiety towards the announcement of the results. Am I visible? I don't know. This is I'm an advocate, so I've never gone live on anything, but I just felt that this is part of my civic duty to try and explain some of the things relating to election management. Okay. Now, the tension in the country relating to the collation and declaration of the presidential election results must partly be understood in the context of the very elaborate legal provisions for announcement of results. But I must first say that all the presidential candidates, that is the Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga and the Deputy President, His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto, and of course Professor Wajakoya and David Maure, they definitely have what might look like the final results, because the law says every candidate and or his agent has a right to receive results tallied, the results that have been announced in each polling station. So I can tell you from a practical sense perspective, out of the 46,299 polling stations, if both UDA and Azimio had their agents, they definitely have all the polling station results. Even if they do not have all the polling station results, these results are now easily accessible at the IEBC portal. If somebody is capable of collating those Form 34A's results, they definitely can have what can be considered as a near accurate outcome of the election. So that should help us to manage the anxiety, and that itself is not new. But there's nothing new around the tabulation, because all of us have been doing this. I think what is of public importance, or what is causing concern, is there now seems to be a disturbing pattern of contradictory statements coming from the different coalitions, based on the same set of results. We would have expected that we would be able to harmonize the results in Form 34A's that have been shared in the IEBC portal, and would have expected that both UDA and Azimio would be honest enough to, when they are computing and they are sharing those with their supporters, they would be honest enough to share only the accurate results, because most Kenyans have not tabulated these results. We are relying on the political parties' call centers to be able to tabulate and then share with their supporters. By now, it would have been possible for one of the leading candidates to concede even defeat, if you like, because then they have access to the results. But it seems that there's one side of the coalition that is not very honest, and because of that dishonesty, tension in the country is rising. You now have each side of the coalition claiming victory based on the same set of results that are easily publicly available. And because of this, I want to tell Kenyans, especially those who are now on this platform that are watching, that if the political side of Azimio or the political side of UDA is not being honest in terms of communicating the figures that they have tallied, then it's better and safer to just ignore. It's safer to ignore the results that are being shared online by either Azimio or UDA, because those results have said ideally should correspond to each other because they are being tabulated from the same set of data. I mean, even if they don't favor you, at least you should be gracious enough or honest enough to admit that when you tabulate those results accurately, you are losing or you are winning. So you cannot have the same set of results being tabulated by different people, and then you have different outcomes based on what each side wants to declare. Which is why now it's important that as Kenyans, we understand that there could be some kind of dishonesty in the communication coming from our tallying centers by our political parties. In the circumstances, which I think is very unfortunate, we are now constrained to rely on what IEBC announces as final, and it's better to urge patience, do not be guided. I know even if you're a great supporter of Azimio, personally I did in fact vote for Azimio, I've said it that many times. I have no anxiety in my mind that I expect Azimio to win. But what I've not done as a voter is to download Form 34As and to begin to collect them. Because there are many forms. I accessed IEBC portal and I saw all the forms that have been uploaded there. But it takes great sacrifice, time and energy, and even personnel and resources to be able to accurately tabulate them. If I had that capacity, or if Kenyans had that capacity, then all of us would have tabulated, because these results are publicly available. But because we do not have the capacity, I would have hoped that I would rely on our political parties that have the capacity to tabulate accurately and then publicly admit that this is the outcome of that tabulation. So the Azimio projection puts the Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Odinga ahead, understandably. The UDA projection coming from their own tabulation also puts His Excellency the Deputy President William Ruto ahead. And this is what now has caused the tension. It's very important now to fall back on the formal announcement. And I want to talk briefly on the process that is ongoing at Bomas. I think Kenyans don't seem to understand. I tried to explain this on Citizen TV yesterday night, but because of the constraint of time and the nature of the questions that are also being raised by panelists, fellow panelists, and the news anchors, sometimes clarity is lost in terms of understanding or sequencing the procedure for declaration of results. Allow me to take Kenyans through this. We have about 46,299 polling stations, right? I want to take you through the procedure in the law, how to explain the delay. There's nothing really going on at IEBC, at the commission. I don't believe that there's something going on at the commission or at Bomas. I just want Kenyans to understand the challenge or the mechanics of tabulation and why there may be a delay in this announcement and the communication. So you have 46,299 polling stations. These polling stations are spread across 290 constituencies, right? Within each constituency, we have a returning officer. Within each polling station, there is a presiding officer. Now, Kenyans have asked, what is taking so long in announcing the results? This is what is happening. If you take a constituency, let's say my home here in Nairobi, my constituency, Langata constituency. If you take Langata constituency, for instance, that is just here in Nairobi. You take Langata constituency and give it, I don't know the number of polling stations, maybe someone could post there, but you give Langata constituency, let's say 200 or let's say 100 polling stations. If you have 100 polling stations, each polling station has a presiding officer. So you have 100 presiding officers. Within each polling station, you have 6 ballot boxes. Now, The law says after the close of the voting, the presiding officer is required to first of all tabulate the presidential election results. And the way the tabulation happens is that you tabulate presidential election results and then you send them electronically and then you deliver physically to the constituency returning officer. So yes, since election was conducted on 9th of August, which is on Tuesday and today is Friday, you can expect that the tabulation of the presidential results was completed nearly about 3 or 4 hours after the close of voting, in any event within the night. But so the electronic results they were sent by the presiding officer, who still had to remain at the polling station. And I think I want Kenyans to understand this part. The presiding officer has to remain at the polling station to complete the tabulation of the other elected positions, like you have the governors, you have the women rep, you have the MCA, the senator, and the MCA, the governor, the senator, and the National Assembly. This must still be tabulated within the polling station before the presiding officer can actually leave the polling station for the constituency tallying center. So let me use my example. I voted in South Sea, a place called Kerry, Kenya Water Institute. The presiding officer in my stream 10, after sending the presidential election results to the constituency tallying center in Nyayo and the national tallying center at Bomas, he still had to remain within that polling station to continue with the counting of the other 5 ballots. You can then understand why there was delay, or why you can reasonably expect a delay to be there in the night, Tuesday night, and maybe part of Wednesday. Now, when this tabulation is completed, the presiding officer then places the results on the door, or maybe publicly displays the results near the polling station before they then move to the constituency tallying center. At the constituency tallying center, if you have 100 polling stations, it is first come, first serve basis. The presiding officer must queue at the constituency tallying center and wait for his turn or her turn to submit the forms as computed to the returning officer at the constituency level. That understandably, and we have agents at the tallying center, that understandably can turn out to be painstakingly slow. So if a PO moves to the constituency tallying center, let's say on Wednesday in the evening, he may find himself waiting the whole of Wednesday up to Thursday to be able to finalize with the returning officer. The returning officer then collates all these results in Form 34As and 34Bs and then brings them to Nairobi physically. I'm not aware whether they are flying to Nairobi or whether they are driving to Nairobi, but the mechanics of arriving in Nairobi can also take time. And I think from what I see happening at Bomas is that the returning officers have started arriving. And when they arrive at Bomas, so you can see that from the date of voting, which was on Tuesday 9th, to the date of arrival of the returning officer, which can happen now on 12th. You have 3 days clear to get the returning officer to arrive at the National Tallying Center at Bomas. When they arrive, there is the usual procedure, and IEBC has done an excellent job in explaining that procedure of processing the returning officers. Now, the returning officers must then present the actual physical copy, their hard copy results. What the Supreme Court has said is that the National Tallying Center and the chairman of IEBC himself, of course through his personnel, will then verify, just confirm that the results that were transmitted electronically correspond with what is in the actual copy, the actual hard copy. This is what is going on, and the process of verification of these hard copy results, whether they correspond with the scanned images which were sent electronically, which you already had a few hours after the close of voting, can actually take some time. And remember, we're not expecting 290 constituency returning officers to arrive at Bomas and to queue there and to help to provide their results, and then to have those results verified before a formal announcement can be made. In short, the point to note is this: IEBC will be held accountable for any misstep or any violation of the process that is outlined in the law. So if there is a delay, the delay should not be explained in the context of trying to falsify the outcome of an election. No. The delay must be understood first and foremost in terms of the complex legal framework for processing election results from the time the voting ends. And you can see that at every stage, the presiding officer and the returning officer must take extra caution to make sure that the results that they are bringing back to Nairobi are results that are accurate, results that cannot be altered by the chairman of IEBC, because the Supreme Court has said in the presidential election number 1, petition number 1 of 2017, that election as finalized in the polling station and the results emerging from that polling station may not be altered whatsoever here in Nairobi. So if I hear concerns of rigging, I want to sympathize with those who claim that there may be rigging going on, but as an advocate and an election law expert, I have really struggled to understand how Form 34A, which has been uploaded at the IEBC portal and which has been supplied to the agent, party agent, how that form can be altered on its way to Nairobi. Because the other concern is probably when we're not computing this form from 34A into Form 34B, Form 34B could be having fictitious results. But you see, results are not necessarily from 34B, the results are in Form 34A. I think if the Commission discovered a discrepancy between what is in Form 34A and Form 34B, then the Commission will be guided by what is in Form 34A. So really, there may be concerns about somebody, sitting behind a tree, under a tree on their way to Nairobi to alter the results, but those concerns, are they really genuine? In my view, it's very unlikely, or rather the incentive to interfere with the will of the voter at the ballot is really, really low. The incentive is really, really low. If we understand the incentive to be really low, because even if you alter that result from the polling station, this result has already gone electronically anyway. And the IEBC will still have to look at the physical copy to confirm that they correspond. So I think the anxiety is there. Let us manage our expectation, but we cannot at this stage allege any form of electoral irregularity. And I think that's what Kenyans need to know. It is unsafe, even dangerous, if not reckless, to allege any form of irregularity at this stage. It would be better that we await then the tabulation, the collation of the results by the Commission, then the formal announcement, because the Supreme Court has said, and of course this is in Article 140 of the Constitution anyway, that if you are dissatisfied with the outcome of the election, the results that have been announced by the Commission, you need to file a petition within 14 days. When you file a petition, allow me to just check that the provision of Article 140 so that I read it accurately in terms of if you are dissatisfied, you need to file a petition within 7 days rather, and the Supreme Court will make a determination within 14 days. I think we could be jumping the gun in terms of verification, because after the commission has announced the results and declared the winner, and they are doing this constituency by constituency, what I would urge supporters to do is this. If Webuye West has been announced, yours is to sit down with pen and paper and compare the figures that have been announced by the commission with the figures that you tabulated, because they should correspond. The announcement of the result, let's say for Webuye West, which was already announced, must correspond with the figures that you already had, because you were given the same Form 34As by your agent. If they do not correspond, yours is to take note, and then you may raise questions in plenary. Is it a question of errors of transposition, or is it a question of forms having been altered? But if there is a discrepancy in the forms that candidates have, the final results announced by the commission as against the results that the candidates have, then there is a pathway under Article 140 of the Constitution to then take this to the Supreme Court. We must not politicize at this stage. We must not politicize. I want to caution Kenyans not to politicize the tabulation, collation, and the tallying going on at Bomas, because there exists legal mechanism to ensure that the process at Bomas is accountable, is transparent, and is verifiable. I do not anticipate significant errors arising from the way the results are being tabulated or tallied at Bomas. But if they were there, then the law provides a predictable pathway for addressing the same. Kenyans must also know that we can still question the outcome of an election without disrupting the peace that we enjoy at the moment as a country. Because the Constitution itself, under Article 140 of the Constitution, already anticipates that if you are dissatisfied one way or another, you can approach the Supreme Court. And I think all the lawyers that we know, election lawyers, are well equipped. They are ready to progress to the Supreme Court to question the discrepancies that they may have noted. The way I see it, as an advocate, as an observer of this electoral process, I have no anxiety whatsoever. I think IEBC has done an excellent job. The tension that could be rising, if at all, that tension is only being generated because both Azimio and UDA are declaring, are announcing that they are tallying, put their candidates ahead. But that tension will be reconciled shortly after the commission has completed the tabulation. I thought it was necessary to clarify some of these things. I don't know whether I can read some of the comments here and answer a few questions, because I've never seen, I don't know whether it's okay to bring this closer. Martha Akelo Opondo says, from what you have explained, IEBC can easily detect anomalies if there are any during verification. That, however, does not mean someone can't try to recorrect. It is only that the process is verifiable. I think that's accurate. ZP Kazi, let me see if I can read that. ZP Kazi says, thanks Wakili, we have learned from the past. That is why, as a nation, we have this fear of the credibility of this process. ZP, as I think as I've already clarified, the process is largely foolproof. It's very intricate, it's very complex, it's tedious, it takes time. But ultimately, we'd rather take time and get it right than rush and get it wrong. But even if there were some errors, there's an opportunity to question those errors at the Supreme Court. Otherwise, there will be no need to have Article 140 of the Constitution. Kennedy. Judy Kemunto says, so in a nutshell, this thing is gone. I don't know what you mean by that. Helen TC, thank you for the explanation. The Emperor Wadi, you've written in Luo. I don't think I want to read that comment in Luo. Victor Juma, oh, let me see. Achien, from your explanation, no. I've not said that from explanation someone is winning or someone is losing, no. I've only said that the way we understand the process, patience is advised because of the need for accuracy in the tallying process. Harry Nesh, Linda Aoko, okay, fine. Let's learn to manage our expectations as a country, Eve Kagai. I think I like that. The reason why it's necessary to have this conversation, we must learn to manage our expectation, because the role of a voter is to come out, cast a vote, go home, sit down, relax, wait for the formal announcement. And in any electoral contest, there definitely will be a winner and there definitely will be a loser. We must have the maturity as voters to be able to accept the bindingness of our electoral outcomes. If His Excellency the Deputy President is declared the winner, of course we will celebrate, we will thank God for him, and we will support him, hoping that he governs the right way. If the Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga is declared the president, of course we will celebrate him, we will thank God for him, and the country will move on. So therefore, this tension, we must de-escalate it, and we must have a conversation that encourages consensus building and encourages, thanks Wakili, we have learned from the, okay, I think I've read that. Somebody is asking that, what if our agent was not given Form 34A? I think if your agent was not given Form 34A, then you can still download from the IBC portal. Edna, Kiana, we have no problem with who wins, but we want the winner to win genuinely without manipulating figures. Is that too much to ask? Of course, nobody wants the figures to be manipulated, but we have to ask ourselves, what is really, you know, talk about manipulation of figures, what really do you mean with manipulation of figures? Because, you know, let's not pick conversations from social media and let it affect how we view this election. I think on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, there was really no anxiety in the country. Anxiety started piling partly late in the evening yesterday night and today, because of the leading contenders sharing results that seem to contradict each other, and therefore supporters feeling like there is need for urgent closure. We all need urgent closure. But as I've already explained, we cannot have urgent closure at the expense of accuracy and verifiability of the tallying process. How long will this process take? Maslin Mwang is asking, how long will this process take? The Article 138, Sub-Article 10 of the Constitution grants IBC up to 7 days to be able to tally and announce the outcome of the presidential elections. So IBC has up to Tuesday next week. I think they will work within that days. They don't need to do it on Tuesday. They can do it on Sunday or Saturday, whatever time they're done. And I think they also understand the anxiety that the nation has in terms of the finality of that outcome. Frederick Nyamiwa, good explanation. It's important that the process be understood. Chara George, thank you, brother. Are you with the candidate you voted for as a president winning? Are you? No. I think this is what Kenyans need to know. George Chara. Once you vote once you cast your vote, in law we say you become fantas official. You have no further role. So it does not matter whoever wins the election. You have done your part. You've cast your vote. You go home, sit down, relax, make merry, be happy. Your candidate wins, be happy. The rival candidate wins, be happy, because they're still Kenyans. Okinda Kennedy, if the political parties fail to have their agents across the polling stations, then they have themselves to blame. Well, it's not fatalistic per se. If a political party does not have agents or a candidate did not have agents is still not fatalistic, because there is a corresponding legal obligation on IEBC to publish those results at the polling station and also to publish them at the portal, and I think IEBC has done that. So even if an agent didn't have, even if an agent or a party didn't have, even if a candidate or an agent didn't have even if a candidate or a party didn't have an agent at the polling station, it is still not fatal, because they can still access the results as pasted at the polling station or as posted at the IEBC portal. What is your say on claim? This is Joseph Imboba. What is your say on claims that someone from UDA hacked the portal and uploaded different figures, adjusted the figures? I found that reckless. Please ignore statements from social media that can heighten anxiety. We cannot say with certainty that somebody is capable of hacking the IEBC portal and posting fake results. Even if that were possible, at this stage, it would be reckless without evidence to make such kind of allegation. And even if you had evidence, it would still be reckless to tender that evidence in the court of public opinion. What we would have expected to do is this. Since you have the actual copies of the results posted at the polling station, if you find that the results do not correspond with what is posted in the IEBC portal, then you can raise that as an election dispute that can be framed and taken to the Supreme Court. The problem with statements that are sweeping, the statements that can cause anxiety, is supporters tend to believe, and when a lie is told, it takes the color of some truth, and therefore it denies you the legitimacy of a win if you're the one imagining the winner, and it heightens the anxiety. So in short, ignore statements that somebody could have hacked the IEBC portal and posted forms that are not the ones that were declared. I think it would be very unfortunate for someone to say that. Kibet Mutai, in case where the physical form 34A gets lost before Bomas, what happens, Wakili? Bearing in mind that the Supreme Court ruling on declaration of results, physical forms. I don't want to pontificate on what would happen if Form 34A would get lost, because I don't have information about that form getting lost. But I can tell Kenyans that there's a provision, I think that must be Regulation 87, that permits the national returning officer, which is the chairman of IEBC, to declare results, if there is, to declare the winner of an election, if the results that are pending will not substantially alter the outcome of that election. So if I check, I think I just want to get the exact provision of the regulation, so I read it verbatim. But it would not be fatal. If a presiding officer lost Form 34A, what you do is to ask yourself what would be the rational thing to do. Already there's a provision in the law that permits the commission to declare the winner if the results that are not in will not alter the outcome of that election. And election lawyers already agree on that. Let me check Election General Regulations, Regulation 87, just so that I can make sure that I've read it correctly. Regulation 87. This is what it says, yeah? Okay. Allow me to read, for those who are following this, allow me to read Regulation 87. This is Election General Regulations 2012. This is what 87 reads, yeah? Regulation 87, Sub-Regulation 3 says as follows: that upon receipt of Form 34A from the constituency, the return, okay, fine, that is just the procedure for verification. There's a provision, there's a proviso there. Let me just read it. Regulation 87, Sub-Regulation 3 states as follows: Upon receipt of Form 34A from the constituency returning officer under Sub-Regulation 1, the chairperson of the commission, number 1, shall verify the results against Form 34A's and B received from the constituency returning officer at the polling station. B, tally and complete Form 34C. C, announce the results for each of the presidential candidates for each county. D, sign, date the forms and make available a copy of to any candidate or the national chief agent present. And E, publicly declare the results of the election of the president in accordance with Article 138(4). I think I could break down that. Issue a certificate. Now, look at this. This is to answer the question somebody asked earlier. Provided that the chairperson of the commission may declare a candidate elected the president before all the constituencies have delivered their results. If in the opinion of the commission, the results have not been received will not make a difference in regards to the winner on the basis of Article 138(4). I think in short, let me explain in layman language. If some results from a constituency are missing for whatever reason, or some Form 34As are missing for whatever reason, Regulation 87, Sub-Regulation 3 already permits the commission to declare the winner if the difference between the results that are missing and the gap of what has been announced does not make a difference. So it's not fatalistic. But I have not heard the commission say that there's an RO who has lost a form. So I don't know where that concern came from. Somebody is asking Maxwell, Silas, how credible is IBC? I think IBC has done an excellent job. You're all aware. The transparency and accountability of the electoral process is self-evident. All the forms that were received, all the polling station results in Form 34A are publicly available. Maxwell, you can also go to that portal and download it. That is in compliance with the law. So if there is, from the way I see it, in my assessment, the way in which IBC is managing this election, they have done an excellent job. And let us not permit concerns raised by some of our leaders to deny IBC the legitimacy that it deserves if it does a great job. Kevin Wakili, thanks for being sincere to Kenyans. Mshindi atakuwa mmoja tu. I think that's okay. Jay, that's informative. Simon Kamau, I don't know what has happened. Samson Kamau, I understand that polling station Form 34As is final. Now what happens to where Sifuna and friends went to Starehe and can't have it effects on the presidential? I think I haven't gotten the question well, but yes, the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court have now clarified that we really don't have the concept of provisional results. The Court of Appeal characterized election at the polling station as the locus of decision making, where the will of the voter is given life. And once the voter has expressed himself and that vote has been properly counted and tabulated in Form 34A, that result is final, it cannot be altered. Can one tamper with uploaded Form 34As? It would be, I don't think I'm in a position to answer that. I don't know whether someone can tamper with Form 34A, but what I know is if someone tampered with Form 34A, it would not benefit them. Because as I've said, Form 34A is available in hard copy. So even if you tamper with it in the system, which from my viewpoint, I think it is not possible, but it's available in hard copy and the same will ultimately be transmitted, ultimately be taken to bombers. It is also available at the polling station. Go back to where you voted. Check. You will see that Form 34A is pasted right there. The result is pasted right there. The agent also has a copy of the results from the polling station. So even if someone tampered with it, I'm really struggling to understand to what end would that advance their interest. Dixon Were Makwere have just had some arrows say that he lost the original from 34B. What happens? Well, Dixon, I think it's possible to lose a form from it's not desirable that those forms be lost, but losing a document can happen to anyone. It does not mean that they were planning to rig the election or to alter the result. They have to explain that to the commission. The commission will make a decision. At least I've already read provision of Regulation 87, Sub-Regulation 3. It says the entire constituency, if the results are not in, because what will happen is this: you have to ask yourself what would occasion a delay in the arrival of the results from the constituency. Maybe the RO has misplaced from 34B, the way you are saying, or maybe from 34A's, some of them are still missing from his PO, so he takes time to get them. And maybe they consult with the commission has permitted them to look for those forms. If 7 days close before these ROs get the forms, the commission is not permitted by the law to extend the period. They will declare the results. And the results will be declared, if it's possible to declare the results to determine the winner based on the results that have been tabulated. If the results that have not been returned will not alter the result, will not alter the outcome of that election. So I think a purposive reading of Regulation 87.3 can permit the Commission to innovate within the challenges and address some of the gaps that may not have been captured in the law. But I think we would rather wait and see if in fact some of those forms have been misplaced by the RO, as you have intimated, Dixon. We have not, personally, I've not seen that communication coming from Bomas. Will Raila swear himself in? I think no. The purpose of this live conversation is not to answer political questions, but just to pacify the feelings and also make Kenyans feel like, yes, they need to understand why there is a delay in the announcement of the results. That delay is, I've explained, the root cause of that delay is in the complex nature of our verification process. Verification, the tabulation of the results at the polling station, verification at the tallying center, the constituency tallying center, and then at the national tallying center. It's a laborious and complex exercise. Naturally, it takes time. It does not mean that there's foul play. What does the law say? Gideoni M. Simon, what does the law say in the event that IBC chair is unavailable to declare results? I think Gideoni, we have to show respect to the commission. We have seen the seriousness within which this commission has taken its work. They have been there, they have sacrificed, they want to deliver free, fair, credible, and verifiable election. I don't think we have the liberty to make reckless statements like, sadly, like what you have said, because why would you, what is the rationale for that anxiety, sir? Why would the IBC chairman be unavailable to declare results? You know, there's really no rationale for that anxiety. Kotingo, I think I want to close it there. This is another pertinent query. I understand that polling stations from 34A is final. What happens to where? Okay, I think I answered that. Cleveland Otieno, we can't rule out hacking system, bring back Vifaranga. No, somebody's quoting Cleveland Otieno. I think generally, let me just give this advice to those who have concerns around election management. Election management is like a conveyor belt. You do your part, you exit the scene. As a voter, you've already cast your vote. Go home, sit down, relax, make merry, be happy. Do not cast aspersion. Because if you cast aspersion, do you have supporting evidence? You don't. Even if you have supporting evidence, do you want us to interrogate that evidence in the court of public opinion? You don't. Because the right locus, the right forum for interrogating evidence is the election court. And therefore, if you have doubts, you frame your concerns in a petition, you take it to court, then the court will look at it and give the other side the opportunity to respond to it and then arrive at a just and fair determination. But it does not help us as Kenyans to cast aspersion on in the manner in which the election has been managed, or to cast aspersion on the integrity of the process just because your expectation has not been met. Lewis Wahome, thanks Wakili, what happens when there is a delay in delivering the presidential forms to IEBC within 7 days? I already answered that. I answered that and said, Lewis, I said, if you look at Regulation 87, Sub-Regulation 3, the law says, at the close of tallying, if some results are not in, the Commission will make a decision whether those results can affect the outcome or not. If the gap is so large that even if the results that are not in were to be allocated to the second person, he will still not close the gap, then the Commission will announce. We also don't want to work with the assumption that some results will not come in. I mean, what would be the rationale for that assumption? You know, what would be the rationale? Because you see, what is happening is this. The presiding officers, let me just start, the clerks, the presiding officers, the returning officers, the constituency returning officer, and the county returning officers, and the commissions. They are our brothers, they are our sisters, they are our fathers, they are our husbands, and they are wives. These are family, they are all Kenyans. I don't think there's an election official, be they temporary or permanent staff, that is thinking, how do I sabotage their own work? It would be absurd. So as a voter, you know, really ask yourself, before you raise concerns on social media, ask yourself, what is the rationale? What is the rationale for this concern? And what is the best channel for addressing that concern? Because as I've said, the Constitution has provided a predictable pathway for dispute resolution, and that pathway is found in Article 140 of the Constitution that says, if there is a genuine, legitimate, and deserving concern, then that concern will be framed in the form of an election petition. It will be taken to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court will render a reasoned opinion. Phyllis Joel, Wakili, do you think there will be a rerun? I think I'm unable to answer that. No Kenyan can answer that. And we don't need Kenyans. Look at this. We do not need to answer the question whether there will be a rerun or not, because that would be like jumping the gun. Let us await for tabulation of the results, then IEBC will communicate. The law says if there is no clear winner, and clear winner I mean a winner within the framework of Article 138, sub-Article 4. Article 138, sub-Article 4 says, number 1, to be declared the winner of a presidential election, you must garner 50% of the total valid votes cast plus 1 vote. And then number 2, you must garner at least 25% of the total votes cast in 24 counties, a minimum of 24 counties. If no candidate achieves that threshold, naturally, we will have a rerun. If there's a candidate that achieves that, then election will be called and the matters will end there. So at this stage, when we're doing tally, honestly, what is the rationale for asking whether we'll have a rerun? Edward Kibet, Wakili, this is why we insisted on electronic voting. Great work. Maybe, Mr. Kibet, allow me to clarify. The voting process is manual. It is the identification of the voter that is electronic, and the transmission of the results that is electronic. So what we have is that we have integrated technology in our electoral system. It's not like the US where you can vote electronically from wherever you are. Here you still have to present yourself physically. You did actually present yourself. You are identified in the KIMS kit. You are given the 6 ballot papers. You mark them manually. You cast them manually. You exit. And then the counting is done manually. The tabulation is done manually. And because these things are done manually, fatigue can set in, human error can happen, and that's why caution is advised. You want results that reflect the true will of the people, but you don't want IBC to take its time. My goodness, how can you be helped? We have to allow the commission to take its time to make sure that the verification process is as accurate as it can get, so that we have results that we can accept as binding. Can you speed up this reaction? We haven't eaten. Enoch Ogwara, you can exit. I don't think I have much to say anyway. Wakili well explained. Martha Mora, not a comment. Okay. I think, let me finalize in this manner, because I want to end it in this manner in 1 minute. In point 4. Number 1, the tallying is going on. We have to exercise patience and permit the commission to do its work. I see no reason why we should have anxiety when everyone is at the bombers trying to finalize this work at the earliest time. Number 2, the results being shared on social media, which seem to contradict each other, kindly ignore those results. And that is why I decided to do this live. I don't know, is it a live? I don't know, because I've never done this. It's a live cast, whatever. I decided to go live because I sensed, seeing what was being posted on Twitter and on Facebook, that there were contradictory information coming from the opposing camps. And I wanted to discourage Kenyans from relying on those results, because I said one of these parties is not being honest. Ideally, if we are using the same results from the polling station, there should be consensus between the political parties and candidates on who is winning. And that consensus, we saw it in Langata when Honorable Nixon Korir accepted that he lost the election to Honorable Jalas. I don't know, his Felix Oduor, also known as Jalas. He conceded. But you can imagine if Honorable Nixon Korir was constantly posting results that contradict that of Honorable Felix Oduor, aka Jalas. You can imagine the tension among their supporters. And I'm saying that this is what is now causing tension, because bloggers of different leading parties and supporters of different the leading presidential candidates are sharing results that seem to contradict each other in their numbers. And that's why I've urged all Kenyans that in the circumstances that we now find ourselves in, it is better to then just exercise patience